Hey guys, and welcome to a new replay commentary. Today we're going to talk about Greymane, who is considered to be one of the best assassins at the game currently. This is going to be a game from about 2 weeks ago, and it got me to Masters, so it was a very interesting game for me, very much the best feeling that you can get. It's one of the highest ranks that I've achieved in my hero's career. So, Greymane is assassin. He's called a ranged assassin, but actually he has two forms. He has a melee form and a ranged form. In his ranged form, you can see he has two different abilities than in his melee form. We're going to go over his ranged abilities first. Greymane cocktail is his Q. You basically throw a bottle, an elixir, at your enemies, which then spreads behind the first target hit. So basically it's a cone damage. The first target that's getting hit only gets just direct damage, but after that there's splash damage, which means you have quite a nice AoE damage towards the backline of the enemy if you hit a tank. Inner Beast is the same for melee and ranged forms. You gain attack speed bonus when you use it. It has basically the only requirement is to continuously hit people or things. If you do that, the speed boost stays active, so you can basically in theory have unlimited speed boost, but once you don't attack for a couple of seconds, this will drop off. Dark Flight is the melee and range form switch. If you're in range, basically your human form, you will leap into the enemy, do a little bit of damage, and transform into a worgen. We go now into his melee form. The worgen form is different because you basically have also an auto attack, but it's not range anymore. And you can see the Q already changed to Razor Swipe. Razor Swipe is also in cone AoE damage effect, but it's very short ranged. So basically only things that you hit in your melee or close to your melee will be getting damage from this. Inner Beast stays the same, as I said. And then you have Disengage on E, which lets you roll away and then transform into human again. So you're going to be switching between melee and range as much as possible in some situations, but generally speaking, your melee form is stronger, you do more damage in melee, and you also have armor, so this will help you stay safe in fights and take less damage. Curse of the Worgen is his trait, so again, he's able to shapeshift between human and Worgen. Human is the range form, and Worgen is the melee form. His two heroics are Go for the Throat, which is basically a point-and-click damage spell. The cool thing about this is that if you bring an enemy below a certain threshold of health, you will be able to kill them instantly. So they will get a little red skull, I think, or something like that, on top of the head, and then if you press R, they're basically dead, unless they get shielded last minute or something like that. But if they don't get any like protected status or something like that, they just die. They can't do anything against that. If you kill somebody with Go for the Throat, you will get a reset and get a second charge of it. If they are not below the threshold, they just take a huge amount of damage. So you can use it as an initiation tool as well, but it's obviously not the best. If you use Go for the Throat, you are transformed into a Worgen. So if you're in range form, if you're in human form and then use it, you will be a doggy afterwards. Curse Bullet is the second heroic. You will remove a large portion of an enemy's current health. So it's basically a good initiation tool against tanks because it's a ranged attack. It will also transform you into a human if you are a Worgen, and it basically does percentage damage to anybody. So especially high health tanks like Murden and Diablo are what makes this heroic very powerful. Okay, let's go quickly over HOTS logs. As always, if you're not interested in these stats, you can click into the video description to skip right into gameplay. Greymane is in the top 15 of damage dealers, sorry, not damage dealers, actually of all heroes on HOTS logs. Again, HOTS log is not necessarily super reliable, but the amount of data that we have, as you can see, more than 20,000 games, is pretty telling. It's I don't want to say accurate, but you can use it as reference for sure. He's pretty popular. Again, he's considered to be one of the most impactful assassins here, and he has a 52% win rate at the moment, considered to be very strong in pretty much any lineup, so you can pick him first or last, whatever position you want. He will do what he can do best. Let's have a quick look at talent, diversity, and talent build. Currently, the Q build, so the Greymane cocktail build, is considered the best one, as you can see in the pick rates here. They are nearly 90%, but as you can see also on his win rates, they are pretty close to 50%. So we're just going to go over it. Wolfheart basic attacks lower inner beast cooldown, so this means if you have W on cooldown and you use auto attacks, it will come off cooldown quicker. Perfect aim is what most people use. The range and the mana is refunded. Sorry, the range is increased and the mana is refunded if you hit a hero. So this is very important to hit your cocktails because you have more space to hit it. You can throw it further, etc. Viciousness is considered to be probably the worst talent at the moment. Increased inner beast duration, abilities refresh it. So basically inner beast normally only refresh from auto attacks, but if you use abilities with this talent, it refreshes the duration, so it stays longer. People think that this is not very strong because you already have good upkeep with only auto attacks, so the abilities don't really do anything. And if it falls off, it's much better to have a shorter cooldown than to have it being active longer, because the activity of the ability is already infinite if you're hitting something in team fights or in situations where you attack something. So this is considered to probably be the weakest, even though its win rate is pretty okay, but with 1,000 games it's also not too much of an indication. On level 4, you normally go for Drought Overflow, increase the explosion length. So as I said, if you hit something afterwards, there's going to be an AoE damage in a cone form. This AoE damage is increased, which makes it at the moment the highest pick rate, because again, you have more range on your Q, and now the Q does also more damage. Not necessarily more damage, but it does a more area effect, so you are able to hit more things with it. Thick Skin is something that is considered pretty good. It gives you physical armor if you are basically going into Worgen form. Can be very useful against heavy auto attackers, but currently the wolf form is not as played as much, or the wolf build. Eyes in the Dark is considered to be one of the strongest talents, because you basically get stealth when you disengage. While stealth was changed and you can see it more easily during a team fight, if you disengage with your roll, it can be difficult to track you, so people like it, but as you can see, the win rate is the lowest on this tier. And then Insatiable Inner Beast causes basic attack to restore mana. He does have mana problems, but it's not, incredibly difficult. Most people, when they go Worgen form, go into either Thick Skin or Eyes in the Dark. On level 7, you have Quicksilver Bullets, increase human basic attack range. This was considered pretty good at the beginning, like in the beta and when Greymane was used more, because you basically have a better attack range, which means you can stay in human form longer and more easily. That being said, human form has been discovered, I want to say, to be the weakest way to play Greymane, so nobody is picking this anymore, because you want to be in Worgen form a lot. Incendiary Elixir, as you can see, is the most picked. Increases Gillian cocktail damage, very easy. You have a quest. With every hit, you increase the damage of Incendiary Elixir, of Gillian Cocktail, and then if you hit 15 targets, I think, with a splash, so not initially with the Q, but with the splash that the Q does, you also reduce the cooldown to 5 seconds, which means that you have incredibly strong poke in human form, which makes Quicksilver Bullets even worse, because you basically have a magic attack that does more damage and hits more people. Wizened Duelist is considered to be very strong if you go Worgen build. Basically you have, I forgot what the old talent was called, but this means that you get basic attack damage when you have takedowns. You lose these stacks if you die, but it's something that was basically a generic talent on a couple of heroes, which were the stacks and then die if you, lose the stacks if you die. We talked about the 2 heroics already. The pick rate is interestingly Go for the Throat at the moment, and Cursed Bullet actually has a below 50% win rate. Cursed Bullet is definitely more difficult to hit, it's a skill shot, and then it's also only useful against very high health tanks that are not very mobile, because if you, again, need to hit it, it's very difficult to sometimes hit very mobile tanks. Go for the Throat, point and click. It also destroys a lot of squishies that are played momentarily, so it's easy to see why it's more popular. On level 13, most of the talents are actually pretty viable. You can see there's 2 talents that are picked more than the other ones. especially running wild. Running wild increases dark threat and disengage range, so basically the way that you engage and disengage is easier because you have more range. You can jump into the backline more easily, and you can jump out of fights more easily, which makes Greymane more dangerous and also more elusive. Basic attacks reduce Razor Swipe's cooldown. This is pretty cool for the Worgen build because you have more Qs in your Worgen form, so you do more magic damage again. Unfortunately, this also means that you lose a lot of mana because you have more Qs, and again, Greymane does have a little bit of mana problems. The win rate also not hugely favorable for this talent. On the Prowl, also pretty popular. It increases the movement speed. That means it's easier for you to stutter step against enemy heroes and other targets if you have your W on. I think it's pretty okay. Movement speed is probably underrated in Heroes of the Storm at the moment because it allows you to do a lot of things like chasing heroes, etc. But the thing is that some heroes have basic movement speed or have, you know, as well as Greymane, some dodge abilities. So movement speed oftentimes doesn't give you the greatest value against mobile heroes. Unfettered Assault is the go-to talent for Worgen forms and increased Razor Swipe range, well, in my opinion at least. This means that you have more gap closers, you can hit more targets, and you do more AoE damage. Its win rate is also pretty good, but as you can see, level 13 already, pretty close to 53% win rate for all 3 of the 4 talents. On level 16, you also have very valid talents. As you can see, the pick rate is actually a little closer to each other. Eager Wolf, increased inner beast attack speed. This is very strong, for example, on Battle of Eternity, because you basically kill the Immortal in a very short amount of time. It stacks up, so you need to attack things with inner beast for a while, so you can't just use W and then kill everything. You have to stay a little bit in range, but it's definitely still a very good talent against those races. That being said, you need UW, so if it's more about team fighting and situations where you don't necessarily hit a lot of things, Eager Wolf can be a little bad because you can't well, secure UW uptime sometimes, and then it falls off, and then your level 16 is basically inactive. Executioner, attacking disabled heroes increases damage. That's the generic talent on level 16 here for Greymane. Most people take it, as you can see. It normally is only viable if you have somebody who can slow or root people. So Malfurion, Arthas, things like that, Rhaegar. Basically heroes that can ensure that you get value out of this. And then Alpha Killer is probably what I take most of the time. Basic attacks against heroes do more damage in Worgen form. This is also percentage based, so it's especially good against high health heroes. Level 20 upgrades for the heroics. Unleashed, Go for the Throat, gets more powerful free cast. So basically if you kill something and then you have the free cast afterwards with Go for the Throat, they do more damage. Gilnean Roulette, Curse Ball of Pierces. This is especially strong against double tank lineups that are trying to attack you in a weird way, but also does amazingly well against squishies because they oftentimes think that they don't get any damage, but then you have a combo of like Gilnean Cocktail, so you throw your Q in against a tank, they get splashed by the Q in the backline, and then you use Curse Bullet and they get the percentage damage. It's not amazing against squishies, as I said, but it does damage, and it's basically free damage because you hit the tank and then you hit something else. Hunter's Blunderbuss is currently picked the most. The basic human attacks splash, so your pistol basically can clear a wave, I think with 3 or 4 shots at this time. So this is very strong, and the win rate is also very high. Tooth and Claw, basic attacks cleave in Worgen form. There's a word missing. This is okay. Worgen form allows you to escape a little easier because you can disengage and then, you know, get distance between you and your enemies, but with this you clear waves very quickly in human form, so you don't even have to engage into the minions. So this is considered to be better because you have just a safe way to attack, and then also if you have to stay in human form to fight at the beginning of the fight, you throw your Q in and hit the tank, and then basically again there's lots of splash damage happening from the cocktail and then from the auto attacks. So at this point human form actually is doing a good job. which is why a lot of people at the beginning liked to play the Quicksilver bullets to have more range, and then play Hunter's Blunderbuss to just have, you know, even further splash damage against the enemy backline, basically. Okay, we're not going to go through Master League this time for the single reason that we don't have any new HGC games, and the old battlegrounds, the old matches that were played at BlizzCon are so far away that it doesn't make a lot of sense. We're going to look quickly on the matchups. His win percentage is pretty good, as you can see, against most of the other heroes. He will struggle, as you can see, against heroes that can control him a lot. Kerrigan is one of the heroes that can get him stunned in most of his forms. She also has amazing magic damage with a lot of her spells, so that his armor doesn't do as much. And then Cassia obviously is very good against auto attackers because of her armor. The rest of the heroes here are also just generally good against magic attackers. Nova is good, Zergar is good, Malthael is very good against him. Due to the way that they are meeting up in solo lane sometimes. That being said, I don't think he's necessarily this bad against Malthael. And then you can see there's a couple of other heroes that are countering him. Lily is the most obvious one, Lily and Johanna, as you can see, because of the blind. Funnily enough, when I go through this, Arthas is actually much lower in win percentage against Greymane, because he's considered to counter Greymane very heavily. Because if you go in as Greymane against Arthas, you are in his slow, and therefore you basically are slowed in attack speed and movement speed, but his win rate actually is not that bad against him. So you learn something new every time. Let's quickly jump over my win rates with him. I have Greymane on level 23, so pretty much a very high level hero for me. My win rate is pretty high, 57%. That being said, this also includes obviously quick match. So we're going to see the Hero League win rates in a second. Pretty low KDA actually. This should be much higher, especially I have so many takedowns on him and have 15 or 14 takedowns on average, so I also die a lot with him. And then one last look on my Hero League stats. I'm 19 and 13 with him, so 59%. So that's what I wanted to do. So you can see, like, I'm actually even higher on Hero League. That being said, but it's only 32 games out of my stats. So if you look back, so 60 and more games are played in quick match, or haven't played in quick match. But he's definitely one of my favorite assassins, and does pretty well in Hero League overall. This is for all seasons. He definitely is a good pick most of the times, and I only had one season where I really sucked with him, but there was a couple of games where I felt really comfortable with him, and we just didn't win. Okay, let's jump into the replay and see what we were doing in this. Let's have a quick look at the draft. The enemy team has Vala, Muradin, Lucio, Alarak, and Genji. We have three very juicy targets for me. Lucio, Vala, and Genji all three are very squishy, which is very good for me if I get a couple of hits off. And then Muradin is also a target for me that is very easy to hit. He's not super mobile, which means that I can go Cursed Bullet eventually if I want to. His jump normally is an escape, not as much as an engage, so you can use Cursed Bullet at the beginning to chunk away a big portion of his health. So he's not like ETC, who's charging and knocking you around from minute one on. You don't have good engagements. Our team has very good lineup for me. We have a range assessment that does damage in magic form, which is Jaina, and then I have double frontline with Dehaka and ETC, who also both can set up a good easy hit of my cocktail. This is pretty normal, standard. We clear the wave top, and then I'm just going to go bottom. Greymane is an okay solo laner. He struggles a little bit against other range assassins sometimes, as we can see in a second. But he's, for example, very good against Sonya and Dehaka, because he basically can poke them from afar. This is the typical engagement into a minion wave. You use your Q on the front minion waves, so basically on the melee minion waves, and then jump in with your E. I use my cocktail here, so I can't do it again, but your E allows you here again to do a lot of damage against heroes and also minions. My W is up, try to keep it up, but it falls off against these two. They have better sustain here, so I have to be a little bit careful. Again, here you can see E going in, and then you just kill the minions with your Worgen form. I want to go take the mercenaries here, but I'm unsure where the other enemies are, like Vala and Lucio. So I'm a little worried and not go in further. Again, you take out your Q, use it on the front line, and then basically E in and kill the range minions to clear the wave most effectively. You can see at the beginning of the game already that I'm very elusive. I can jump in and out, and they haven't, or they're not playing Murden in the bottom lane, so I'm pretty safe because Vala, Lucio, and Genji don't have that much CC. So I'm actually pretty free to just go in and out. We're trying to take this camp here now before the shrine begins, which means it would pressure while the shrines are active. But unfortunately they're contesting us and they also have their giants pushing, so I'm deciding to go in here. You can see how much it chunks away if you hit heroes that are squishy. So you always have to be very careful against Greymane because you expect him to do okay damage, but if he hits all his spells on you, you definitely end up getting a lot of damage from him, just from his combo of Q, E and another Q basically. I'm unsure what the best way is to do these camps now with Greymane. This way you don't get any damage from them if you just dodge their attacks. This is actually very bad from the Lucio because as you can see he's getting chunked by me very quickly, and he now dies because if you engage into a Greymane with a squishy, you will lose a lot of health if he's not running away from you. And in this case I wasn't getting any damage from the siege giants, and he just drove by and then he gets basically EQ and loses maybe like 200, 300 hit points from that, which if he has like 2000 can be a lot of health. So again, I'm not 100% certain at the moment with the siege giant how to do them with Greymane, because in range form you don't take as much damage, you can dodge most of the attacks, but you also do less damage in human form. So okay, we are doing the camps, sorry, the temples. As you can see, you do a lot of damage against neutral enemies. So Greymane is a very good hero to do camps and to do these objectives where something spawns. So he's great on Battlefield of Eternity against the Immortal. He does very well against the minions on Battlefield of Eternity. No, sorry, on Infernal Shrines. So the skeletal defenders can be cleared by him very quickly. He has good AoE. The only thing that is a little difficult with him is basically that he has pretty low life for an assassin, for a melee assassin, and then his mana also drains very quickly in the early game. We're thinking about contesting here, which can be difficult, but because they were so low, it's actually very easy. And then you can see here, even though Alarok was running away, I'm easily able to jump into him because of my E range. So this will allow me to basically catch up on anybody who's in auto attack range. So this is what makes Greymane so strong. Doing these camps, I normally would advise you to have your W up. So if you don't have Inner Beast up, this takes very long because his auto attacks in melee form, well, his auto attacks in general are very slow because he has the ability. So because he has the ability to speed up his auto attacks, his basic auto attacks are very slow. Which means that if you don't have the buff up, it can take ages for you to clear these. Still, if you have him, if you have the buff, if you can activate it, he's probably one of the best mercenary hunters in the game as an assassin. Very reliable damage. You have the availability of your escape if you're in Worgen form, so that even if you get ganked, you normally are able to escape unless the enemy is bringing hard CC with him. As you can see, we're ahead 10 versus 9. We have now our heroics. Let's have a quick pause and look at our talents. So you can see I've went full Q build. I've not gotten any quests yet, quest stack yet, and but this is probably what you want to go for the first 7 levels. After level 10, so 13, 16, and 20 are a little bit more flexible, but at the moment I would definitely suggest this is the best way to do it. You can see my quest text on the bottom now. So 0 of 15. Let's pause really quick again. On level 7 you basically have the chance to increase the damage. So you can increase the damage by 15 up to 225. So the moment the explosion array does 349 damage to enemies in a cone behind them, and you can increase that explosion by 225 if you hit 15 heroes, which is like a huge chunk of health. So this is why it's so powerful, because you basically can chunk enemies away without being in range of them for them to attack. Here's a very nice miss of my cocktail. I also shouldn't have used it on the minion there. I should have used it on the giants here, or even now behind the wall, so that I can get more stacks from the Greymane. Sorry, from the Genji. As you can see, I'm holding my heroics, or I have not chosen my heroic yet. The reason is that I'm contemplating with myself what would be the better choice here. As I said, there are 3 very squishy targets, and Alrock actually is also not the most beefy frontliner. So Cursed Bullet is actually pretty good. That being said, with Jaina's attacks being pretty low range, it might be a good idea to just chunk Murden away by using Cursed Bullet on him. Nice miss by me. Didn't hit my Q. So I'm thinking about what I want to do with this, and then as my team just kills 2 squishies, it shows me that these people are not paying too much attention, or assuming they're not paying too much attention, and that I will get more value out of an ADC go for the throat. Not necessarily the best action here to use it maybe, but we get 2 kills out of the mosh pit, so it probably is worth it, because you chunk quite a bit of health from that. And obviously if you get a kill with go for the throat, you get a second usage out of it, and it does nearly 600 damage. So even if it only, even if the kill was confirmed by just auto-attacking him, I get a second charge of my 600 damage, so I can, for free, so I can use it on the Murden. And he actually took quite a bit of damage from that, so it can be worth to use it even if the kill is already secured. And then also, if the Genji would have dropped even lower from auto attacks or from other AoE damage, I could have possibly also go for the throat at him. So using it early doesn't necessarily mean it's bad if you get the reset. You should definitely aim for the reset though. If you don't get the reset, it can oftentimes be bad. So let's have a look here really quickly. She used her Rain of Vengeance here first, which means I know that she has at least 1 more stack, probably, because it's the first time that I see her use it. So I use Q and get stunned. So I'm in Worgen form now and chasing her, and now I know she's in a pretty desperate situation because she's dropping at pretty much 50% of her health. So what I'm doing now is I go into human form to try to dodge the second Rain of Vengeance. This is something that you can do with Greymane and still be pretty effective, because as you can see, I'm still doing okay damage to her in human form. The Worgen form does more damage, but I would have taken less damage in the Worgen form, hitting or getting stunned. But on the plus side, if I was able to hit or escape by barrel rolling out of or disengaging out of her stun, I basically take no damage, and then I'm still able to do attacks in melee, or sorry, in range to kill her. We're up a talent, so fighting here is fine. That being said, now we're losing our Mafurion, I think, so I'm just booking it, because there's no reason for me to stay too long. Unfortunately for them, we actually kill their Alarak. I wanted to use my go for the throat here, but there you go. But it didn't trigger on the Alarak because he died too quickly. And then I'm triggering it on the Lucio, and as you can see, let's jump back here for the kill. So we have here, again, Mosh Pit. It gets instantly, and I don't think on purpose, interrupted by the Vala by using Rain of Vengeance. So now I have a couple of targets that are pretty juicy. The Alarak here has pretty low health, so if he drops below here somewhere, I'm going to be able to go for the throat him. Merlin is not very interesting for us because he's still pretty high health, and he just used Avatar, I think, or he still has it up at least. Vala is potentially also a good target, but she's in the backline, so if I'm moving in here and they turn around and get away, I'm actually pretty much badly out of position. Lucio is completely out of position because he doesn't heal any of his teammates except Alarak, and he has a very difficult escape way here. So we're trying to kill anybody here. Now the Alarak is completely empty, so I should be using, I could have used Go for the Throat, and I know that I tried to, but it doesn't trigger, which is fine. So now the fight continues, and the Lucio just hovers around, and you can see he has 1,800 health still, which is a little bit less than half of his health, but it's still, you know, 2,000 health is not a small amount. And now you can see what I'm going to do with him. I'm get unstoppable from the Go for the Throat because you can't interrupt the attack. I jump on him and he just dies, as you can see. So with his positioning basically gave me a free kill. But Go for the Throat and Alt Attack and a Q do so much damage in such a short amount of time that it's very, very difficult to escape a Greymane with Go for the Throat if you're a squishy hero. Again, that was like 1,800 health in less than a couple of seconds. Maybe even less than a second, actually. And this is the strength of Go for the Throat Greymane. You have a gap closing assassin that can do a lot of burst damage, that has a reliable escape, and that also has armor in Worgen form. So this is pretty good.
Excellent work.
And allows you to be very effective as an assassin. This is also something that you can do with Greymane all the time, getting merc camps just to push into the enemy. One thing I'm not very good at, as you have seen throughout the replay, is hitting my Qs. Therefore I only have 8 stacks. What I'm doing here is also not the smartest. I haven't helped my team here. I just took the temple, and I could have killed the I could have killed the Genji here easily if I was paying more attention. Lucio's pretty elusive, so he's getting away from me, and we're still fighting here, which is the wrong thing to do because we lost our healer. Let's jump back 1 second because I make a couple of bad decisions here. So first of all, I missed my Q here. Also, using my Q here doesn't really do anything. I can chunk a little bit of the Lucio, but he has the wall ride, so basically plus 25 armor, so he wouldn't have taken that much damage. And now I also don't have the Q to engage here into my team. Like if I had Q now, I could easily hit the Muradin here, and then also chunk away the Vala because she would have been hit. And then we also have very low Atso over here, who could also have been a target for my Q. So this is pretty bad by me, basically. Or using my Q there was bad by me. So now I'm hitting Muradin, which is not the best way to do this. Lucio just used his drop, so maybe it was okay for me to not to go into the backline. That being said, my Go for the Throat comes off cooldown now, so I should focus on low health targets and not on Muradin. So now I'm jump in, and I use Go for the Throat, but as you can see, because the shield is still active and he's getting healed, I actually don't kill Genji, and then you also ease out, so I don't even have follow-up damage on him. Then again, I have armor and survive this, so I'm actually pretty happy that I'm not dying. So we trade 2 versus 0, which is bad, and I didn't play this very clean. So you always should try to hit your Q on a main target that causes a splash damage to the rest of the enemy. You don't want to necessarily just use Q to do damage. Like, it's not a nuke per se on one person. It doesn't do that much damage in the original state. Like, it does 150 damage, which is not very much. Like, your auto attacks do more damage. This is a very good. Let's go back again and speed up a little bit. This is going to be a very good Q. We're gonna go to everyone here now. Whoops, there you go. So this is a very good Q. You can see that they're all clumping up, and actually the Genji is in a very bad position here as well because he's super low. Let's look at him. Where is he? He has 500 HP. So if he gets splashed by me, that's going to be very difficult because my splash does 460 damage now already, plus the plus 150. So he actually would be dead. So I splash here, and he doesn't get splashed, luckily for him. But this was a really good Q because you can see it splashed quite a bit of heroes here. Lucio is just amping it up, so now it didn't do as much as it could have done, but it definitely was a much better Q because it actually does something and doesn't only hit one target. And also gave me a bunch of stacks here. I have another Q up here. This is okay. Unfortunately, I hit the minions instead of the Muradin. If I hit the Muradin instead of the minions, I probably would have done more damage. And this is again something that Greymane can do. I just jump on the Alarak and now I'm close in melee range to him. Follow him. Even if he charges out now, I can Q, which gives me a little bit of range, and then I'm in human form and can just jump after him. If I was a better player, I would probably have caught the Lucio earlier as well, because my E was up again. This was also bad because I should have not Q'd down. I should have Q'd up because I knew that the Lucio was running up instead of down. So if I was mechanically better in this game, I would have done this better. Good thing is my W stack, or my W is still active, so I can clear this temple here very quickly. And W is one of the mana burners as well. Like it costs, I think 75 mana. So if it drops a lot, yeah, 70 mana. So if it drops a lot, you're gonna spend a lot of your mana pool just reactivating it, and that can be an issue. Also, the cooldown is active as soon as you activate it. So it has 20-second cooldown, but you can see it now here. Now it's 20-second. So we have activated now. And when it runs out now, it won't have the full 20 seconds, it's only 15 seconds. So the cooldown is reduced by auto attacks in enemies. This can be very powerful if you, again, attack something that is very stationary, like Be Mortal or something like that. This is the worst engagement into a Greymane composition, because the Greymane can just go into Worgen form into you, and kill you. So against Greymane, you normally don't want to engage into him. You want him to engage into you, and then focus him, because then he has to use his E to disengage. In this case, I only have to use my E to engage into the Alarak, and he just gets chunked. You can see like my Worgen form attacks actually do nearly 400 damage. This is also very good play from two of our heroes. So Jaina just hit 4 people in the Ring of Frost. And the ETC does the correct reaction to the Genji Dragonblade, because Genji would have killed our Malfurion here, even though Malfurion is using Shrink on him. Genji would have killed him. So the Mosh Pit secures not only us a kill, but also secures that our healer survives. I use Go for the Throat here. Again, I get the reset guaranteed, so now I have another one. I use it on the wrong target. I just use it very willy-nilly here, to just literally just use it, which is a bad way to do that, because I could have probably killed the Alarak, or at least taken him down to a very unhealthy state, so that he would have not be able to contest this here. I have my quest done, so every 5 seconds now I can throw a nuke, and I'm doing this pretty okay here now. And this is very powerful because you can basically now here throw it against the keep and splash. Let's see if I can do it. Yeah, there you go. I splash it against the keep, and if you look down here, anybody who stands behind the keep and defends it here, which is the normal position for a keep defense, gets splashed by the cocktail. Which is why the cocktail quests are so popular and so powerful at the moment. We take the keep. And we're level 20, and we're gonna go for Hunter's Blunderbuss here. I like it the most. And again, if I was better at the game, I would have hit the Lucio, and then the splash damage would have been here on the Genji and the Alarak. Or the Vela? Yeah, it's Vela. So, you know, nothing that much they can do. And let's have another look at this. So again, I'm mechanically not the best player. So now here, we're running away first, and then they engage into us, which is a very bad idea. Lucio's again at like 50% life. And again, if I hit the Lucio instead of hitting the Vala here, it can go very differently. But now the Lucio gets completely devastated by the Twilight Dream by Merfurion. And now I jump into him. That's 200 damage basically for free. And then he just dies because the ETC also does damage to him. So we kill everybody here. Not everybody, but we kill most of them here. And we have 3 level leads, so we're gonna just easily get this core done. And again, this was my promotion to Masters, which was very great for me, so I'm very happy about this this game. Before we go into MVP and everything, let's pause it here so that we actually have a look at the stats. So, quick look at talents. Again, Q build is the norm for level 1 till 7. 10 this time I went Go for the Throat. It has the higher popularity and winner at the moment, but again, it would have also been fine against Murden. That being said, it is a skill shot, and as you can see, it took me nearly 15 minutes to finish my quest here. So if you're not as good as mechanically as you are with, like, you know, strategic positioning and everything, Go for the Throat is just a point and click, so it can be very easy to use. Running Wild for me is the best talent on 13. For my way to play Greymane, I like to jump in and out a lot, so having a larger range on my engage and disengage is great. I went for Alpha Killer. We didn't have that much slows in our team besides Jaina, and I didn't want to rely on Jaina to slow people. It's a little bit selfish because I also thought that I could maybe chunk more of Murden. It might not be the best choice here, to be very honest with you. Looking at our teams, especially because ETC has actually great setup for Jaina, so it probably would have been better to go Executioner here. But again, I just like Worgen, or Alpha Killer, not Worgen Killer, against tanks. And then on 20, Hunter's Blunderbuss is just the go-to at the moment. It might be a little overrated, but it just gives you very safe wave clear. That being said, it was also a very short game on level 20, so we didn't really need the wave clear. Looking at stats, I have 3 kills, 15 assists, and I didn't die anytime during the game, which is exactly what you should aim for. You definitely have situations where you jump in and then you're just caught, especially with hard CC from more than one hero. They literally only had Murden with the very hard CC. Obviously the silence still helps against the disengage, but you can still move, so you can run away. And then they have Reign of Vengeance, but she oftentimes kept it for the mosh pit, so the rest of the boop doesn't do anything. Genji doesn't have any CC, so not dying here is obviously great, but you will have situations where you engage with your E. You basically I don't have disengage up, for example, or something like that, because it is on a short cooldown when you roll in. So don't expect this to happen all the time, but he's a very safe assassin normally, so you don't have to think about it too much. So you definitely should be trying to die as little as possible, but you have situations where you're just gonna encounter this. Other than that, after my sip of coffee, hero damage is okay. I'm on top of everything, but doesn't really, you know, reflect the game. We did a lot of teamwork here, as you can see in kills and everything. Team was very active. The Merfurion is probably the MVP here. Lots of damage here as well, and pretty good heals. So very well played by everybody, and that's pretty much the game. This is a very good example of how to play Greymane in these situations. Great draft around him, good supporting act. Like you have an okay support for him. I don't like Marth that much, but you know, it works. And then a mage with him is very great. Well, and that's it. Our team wins. MVP is Malf. Not only best healing done, but hero damage done is also very big. So that was very good. Overall, very easy game for us to win, but Greymane definitely has helped us. You should not forget that he's a good mercenary hero. As you can see, I took 7 mercenary camps, especially now during the meta, which allows mercenaries to push quite well, even with the changes that we had now a couple of weeks ago where the towers got stronger. You do have situations where mercs will be very powerful. So an assassin that not only does a lot of hero damage, but also helps you take mercenaries can be great. So if you are not into Greymane yet, you should definitely give him a try. Other than that, we are done with this one. If you haven't heard, we are now streaming on Twitch on a schedule. We have Monday and Wednesday that are happening all the time at 20 CET, so in the evening. If you want to check that out, the link is also in the video description. And then we normally do a weekend stream on Saturdays, but the time is more flexible. We will continue to produce more videos for YouTube as well. We have a couple of guides. Well, I have a couple of guides that I want to do. If you haven't seen the Kurtz Holo guide, check that out. That went up last week. I want to do similar things for all maps, but also around drafting. That's probably going to be something that I will do the week after next. I'm going to be away next weekend, so I'm just going to prepare a replay commentary, I think, for the next Sunday video. If you have any hero that you really want to see, I can also play that in unranked and then give you a guide for that. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great Sunday. I will see you soon, and as always, thank you for watching. Have a good one. Bye bye.